Hello, I'm Ivan Zhdanov. Thanks for being here. The top stories today: Russia, Ukraine, and some international news. Russian forces have captured an important settlement in the Donetsk region of Ukraine. Velikaya Novoselka is now fully under Russian control. Over the weekend, Russian soldiers took control of all residential areas of the town and raised their flags there. Ukrainian forces retreated north across the Mokry Yeli River. There were no heavy battles in the residential area because the Russian army was threatening to completely encircle Velikaya Novoselka. Ukrainian soldiers managed to escape at the last moment. The Russian army is continuing its offensive in several directions. North of Kupiansk, Putin's forces have expanded their bridgehead on the western bank of the Oskil River. The Ukrainian military has no reserves to counter this attack. Toretsk is expected to be declared captured soon. Advancing Russian units have reached the western outskirts. Only scattered Ukrainian resistance remains. The Russian offensive is also developing west of Pokrovsk. Progress there is slow, but Putin's troops have already crossed the railway and entered open terrain beyond the village of Kotlina. In the Kursk region, there are not reported frontline changes, but information has emerged about the death of a North Korean lieutenant colonel. He was commanding special forces. Meanwhile, he is what one of the supply roads in the Kursk region look like. Notice the muddy conditions and destroyed vehicles along the roadside. Russian propagandists have shown another example of modified BMP armor. I don't know if it looks more like a giant grill or a shed. Sheets of metal and logs have now been supplemented with bundles of metal rods. In theory, this setup is supposed to protect against FPV drone strikes. When a drone hits this kind of shield, its warhead detonates at a distance from the vehicle, reducing the damage or preventing it altogether. In practice, this kind of defense works very poorly. The well-known Russian rapper Morgenstern has been put on a wanted list for failing to comply with the law on foreign agents. He did not label his content with the required foreign agent notice. Earlier, his property in Moscow region was seized. The musician faces up to 2 years in prison. Morgenstern is not currently in Russia. In Volgograd, children with disabilities are being sent for a vacation to the southern city of Anapa. This would be good news, but Anapa has suffered a major oil spill. In April and May, new oil discharges are expected there. Across Russia, a series of incidents linked to phone scammers continues. In Krasnodar, in southern Russia, the 3 restaurants were set on fire in a single night. In one case, a man in camouflage threw a backpack onto the restaurant floor and ran away. 50 people had to be evacuated. 20 minutes later, a second restaurant caught fire, but staff managed to put it out. Half an hour after that, another restaurant was set on fire. Fortunately, no one was injured. A 19-year-old suspect was arrested for arson. He claimed his social media accounts were hacked and he was blackmailed into committing the crimes. In the Yakut village of Nizhneyansk, a fire destroyed an administrative building that housed a school, kindergarten, local government office, store, post office, bank and library. The fire was caused by a short circuit. Blizzard conditions and strong winds made firefighting difficult. Residents fear that authorities will not rebuild the structure as their village, with a population of about 200 people, has long been neglected. Russia ranks only 15th in Europe for fuel affordability. With an average salary, a person can buy 1,242 liters of gasoline. Despite being an oil-rich country that exports resources to the West, Russia still lags behind the West in fuel affordability rankings. In 2025, gasoline prices could rise even further, reaching $1.20 per liter. Authorities plan to create an electronic registry of LGBT Russians. People with non-traditional sexual orientations will be monitored by security officials. Personal data collection began after the LGBT movement was declared extremist. Police raids were conducted in gay clubs where passports were recorded. Meanwhile, provocators on dating apps are trying to identify closest homosexuals. Belarus held its so-called presidential elections. Lukashenko gave himself 87% just like Putin did a year ago. This will be the Belarusian dictator's 7th term. At a press conference, Lukashenko was asked about freeing political prisoners, including Sergei Tikhanovsky and Maria Kolesnikova. He responded that Kolesnikova is violating prison regulations. Lukashenko also announced that Belarus will soon install the Oreshnik missile. Israel will take part in the Victory Day celebrations in Russia. This was announced by Israel's ambassador in Moscow. She states that historical facts do not change because of geopolitical circumstances. In Paris, a 30-meter bell tower of a 19th century town hall caught fire. The City Hall building in the 12th arrondissement of the French capital suffered severe damage from the fire, and specialists are now assessing the damage to the roof. Today is January 7th. That was all the important news for now. Don't forget to like and leave a comment so more people can see this video. See you tomorrow.